Before sunrise in the deserts of Kuldhara, an entire village disappeared into the night. Families abandoned their homes beneath the darkness. Fires were left extinguished. Doors remained open. Kitchens stood unfinished. Clay pots, sandals, and belongings were reportedly left behind as if life itself had suddenly stopped only moments earlier. By morning, the streets were empty beneath the rising desert sun. According to local legend, hundreds of people vanished together during a single night, leaving behind a settlement that would never truly live again. Even today, the abandoned village of Kuldhara still stands not far from the golden city of Jaisalmer in Rajasthan, India. Rows of silent sandstone homes stretch across the desert beneath endless skies while dry winds move sand slowly through roofless walls and forgotten courtyards. At first glance, the village almost appears peaceful beneath the warm desert light. But the longer people remain there, the more unusual the atmosphere begins to feel. Especially near sunset. When the desert wind starts moving through the empty streets and fading sunlight casts long shadows between abandoned homes, the silence itself begins feeling heavy. Visitors often describe the unsettling sensation that the village does not feel entirely empty. Some locals still refuse to remain there after dark entirely. Others quietly warn outsiders not to mock the stories connected to the abandoned land. And over generations, the legend spread that Kuldhara was not simply abandoned, it was cursed. To understand why the mystery became so emotionally powerful, it is important to understand who once lived there. Kuldhara was originally inhabited by the Paliwal Brahmins, a prosperous and respected community known for intelligence, agriculture, trade, and remarkable skill at surviving within Rajasthan's harsh desert environment. Historians believe the village was established centuries ago and became part of a network of thriving desert settlements connected through farming and commerce. Families built homes there. Children grew up there. Festivals once filled the streets with music, lanterns, conversation, and ordinary human life beneath the desert sky. But according to local legend, everything changed because of one man. Salim Singh, a powerful minister of Jaisalmer, is said to have become obsessed with a young woman from the village. Some stories claim he demanded to marry her against her will. Others say he threatened the villagers with impossible taxes, violence, and destruction unless the community surrendered her to him. According to the legend, the leaders of Kuldhara faced an impossible decision: submit to fear, or sacrifice everything they had built for generations. And during one silent night beneath the desert sky, they made their choice. Torches moved quietly through the streets. Families gathered belongings beneath the darkness. Mothers carried sleeping children through narrow roads illuminated only by firelight and moonlight. Doors were left behind. Homes abandoned. Entire generations walked away from the only lives they had ever known. Some stories say the cooking fires were still warm by sunrise. Others claim food remained inside homes exactly where families left it only hours earlier. And before disappearing into the desert night, local legend says the villagers placed a curse upon the land itself, declaring that nobody would ever truly settle there again. What makes Kuldhara so emotionally haunting is that the abandoned village still feels strangely alive with memory even centuries later. Walking through the ruins today does not feel like visiting ordinary historical remains. Narrow stone pathways still weave between homes where ordinary human life once existed. Ancient windows stare silently across empty streets. Roofless walls cast long shadows over abandoned courtyards where voices once echoed generations ago. Broken kitchens still sit inside partially collapsed homes while cracked stairways lead nowhere beneath the desert sky. And when the desert wind moves through the village near evening, the silence becomes almost overwhelming. Some visitors describe sudden feelings of sadness or emotional unease while walking through the ruins after sunset. Others claim the atmosphere changes completely once daylight begins disappearing from the desert. Local guides sometimes lower their voices while speaking about the village at night. Some quietly warn visitors not to remain too late after sunset. Others refuse to walk alone through certain parts of the ruins after dark entirely. According to local stories, strange things are occasionally experienced there once the village becomes fully silent. Footsteps echo through empty structures when nobody is nearby. Faint whispers drift through the wind between abandoned homes. Some visitors report the unsettling feeling of being watched while walking through the empty streets despite nobody standing around them. Others describe hearing sounds resembling distant conversations carried softly through the desert wind before suddenly disappearing again into silence. Paranormal investigators have visited Kuldhara over the years, helping spread the mystery internationally. But perhaps the strongest emotional tension surrounding the village is not fear, it is abandonment itself. Entire communities gone. Homes left standing exactly where life once existed. A place where ordinary human existence suddenly ended beneath the desert sky. According to local belief, the curse placed upon Kuldhara still remains active today. Some stories claim people who attempted settling there later experienced financial ruin, illness, emotional distress, or unexplained misfortune forcing them to leave again. Others insist the village rejects permanent settlement entirely. Whether symbolic or supernatural, the curse became one of the most enduring parts of Kuldhara's identity. Historians still debate how much of the story is literal truth and how much evolved through generations of retelling. Some researchers believe political instability, water scarcity, excessive taxation, or worsening desert conditions may have gradually forced the Paliwal Brahmins to abandon the region over time. Others believe the legend surrounding Salim Singh became emotionally fused with a real historical migration that later transformed into folklore. But the emotional power of Kuldhara survived because many people believed something deeper happened there. According to local stories, the villagers did not slowly disappear over decades. They vanished together almost overnight, leaving behind a silence that still feels emotionally unsettling centuries later. And when the desert sky begins turning orange at sunset, many visitors quietly admit the ruins no longer feel like ordinary history, they feel like memory frozen in time. What makes Kuldhara fascinating even now is that nobody can fully separate the historical truth from the emotional weight of the legend itself. The ruins still exist beneath the Rajasthan desert sky. Visitors continue traveling there from around the world, many arriving curious about the mystery and leaving surprised by the atmosphere surrounding the abandoned village itself. During daylight, Kuldhara almost appears beautiful beneath the golden sunlight. Sandstone homes glow warmly against endless skies while dry desert winds move softly through forgotten streets. Birds circle silently above roofless ruins while shifting sunlight paints the village in shades of gold and amber. But as evening approaches, the emotional feeling of the place slowly changes. Long shadows stretch deeper between empty homes. Silence settles heavier across the village. The desert wind moves through broken walls and abandoned structures that once protected ordinary families living ordinary lives. And perhaps that is why the story survived for so long. Because Kuldhara represents something deeply human, the fear of losing home, identity, safety, and community all at once. Some visitors believe the mystery is entirely historical, shaped through centuries of exaggeration and storytelling. Others quietly believe something about the village still feels different even now. A few local guides continue warning outsiders not to disrespect the ruins or remain there too late after sunset. Some claim unusual things still happen there during the night. Others simply say the emotional heaviness of Kuldhara is impossible to understand until experienced personally. And maybe that uncertainty is exactly why the village continues fascinating people today. Because deep down, people are drawn to places where history and legend overlap so completely that separating them becomes almost impossible. Throughout the world there are abandoned ruins, forgotten villages, and lost civilizations. But very few places carry the emotional tension of Kuldhara. A village where entire families reportedly disappeared together beneath the desert sky. A place where silence itself became part of the legend. A place where locals still speak carefully about what happened there generations ago. Whether the curse is real, symbolic, or simply born from centuries of tragedy and storytelling, Kuldhara survives as one of India's most haunting and emotionally immersive mysteries. And when the desert winds move through the empty streets of Kuldhara after sunset, some locals still believe the village remembers the night everyone walked away into the darkness.